before I start this season preview talking about the Portland Timbers, from now on, in terms of the season preview and until I finish all the teams in MLS with their season preview, all of these video is going to be pre-recorded, and the reason why I am pre-recording these video is because I'll be going to Vegas this weekend, and during that time I will not be able to have any time to do videos, which is why these pre-recorded video is going to be kind of like a filler video in terms of the days that I'm not going to be at home and that I'm going to be in Vegas. So with that being said, let's start talking about the Portland Timbers, who last season finished with a record of 14-7-13 and had 49 points. They scored 49 goals, conceded 52, and had a goal differential of -3. And in terms of last season's summary, they barely made it to the playoffs. In fact, they beat the Quakes on the final day of the weekend to get themselves into the playoffs and finish 6th in the Western Conference. But their playoff hope or their playoff run and their hope of reaching MLS Cup final once again was quickly dashed because they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and they also got knocked out in the semifinal of the US Open Cup by Minnesota. The players that they bought in this offseason, they didn't bring in a ton of players, but they definitely bring in players that can definitely help their depth in terms of this squad. They, of course, brought in Dario Zaparik, I think that's how you pronounce his name, to help their defensive depth. They brought in Jaroslav Nizgoda, who I believe he's a DP and that he is going to replace Brian Fernandez in that spot. They also got Yimi Chara, Blake Bodley, and Felipe Mora into this team. And I believe they also bought in one other players that I didn't mention, and I'm not quite sure exactly which other player that they bought in, because I'm pretty sure when I wrote this list, I feel like I'm missing one player in terms of the players that the Timbers are able to add this offseason. And if you're a Timbers fan, if you know who exactly it is, let me know in the comments below. You know what, I'm actually not just gonna search it and just kind of continue on into the players that is no longer with this club and were out of this club in the offseason. One of those guys is Brian Fernandez, which I really wish him the best in terms of what has happened in this offseason. I mean, if you guys don't know what has gone on with this offseason with Brian Fernandez, ever since he joined Cologne down in the Argentine Premier Division, he's been under heavy death threats from family members and some people that knows him very well. And you know, I'm not quite sure why exactly he's under death threats. From what I heard, the reason why he might be under death threats from family members, and especially his dad, is because his dad actually is the supporter of a rival club that Brian Fernandez is in. And you know, in Argentina, that, yeah, they take their rivalry very seriously, and that, you know, if you have a family member or a player that is in your family that is not joining the right club, you know, you're not only going to piss off your family, but there could definitely be some death threats involved in terms of that. So, you know, I really wish the best for Brian Fernandez, and I'm hope that he is okay. And hey, you know, if he feels like he is under constant threat to be down in Argentina, then he is always welcome back to the Portland Timbers, and certainly welcome back to MLS. And I mean, I kind of surprised the fact that the Timbers decided to not renew his contract. I mean, I understand the issue that he's been suffering and that he had to go through the drug and abuse substance program that MLS was in, and eventually the Timbers kind of feel like it wasn't going to work out in the future, so that they decide to kind of terminate his contract. But I feel like they probably should have kept him, even with the issue that he's been having. But like I said, I wish him the best, and hopefully he is going to be safe down in Argentina. And if he does not feel safe, again, you know, he's welcome to come back to either the Timbers or come back to any MLS team that is here in the States. They also lost Zarek Valentine, which I believe this was from the expansion draft where Nashville actually drafted him, but then Nashville, of course, traded Valentine to Houston for some allocation money. They lost Kendall McIntosh, Modo Jama, Foster Langford, and Claude Dielentna, who these are kind of the players that you probably won't recognize because most of them are either playing with T2 or they are usually players that get stuck onto the bench. So, not really a lot of players that they lost this offseason. The only two notable player is Brian Fernandez and Zarek Valentine. Now, in terms of the goal scorer for this team, I'm going to say it's going to be that the new DP that they brought in, Jaroslav Neskoda and Jeremy Abobosi. I think both of these guys is going, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not are they going to start up top, and it's going to be interesting to see whether Savarese, knowing he has these two dangerous weapons going for in that 9 spot, would they actually bring both of them together? And if that is the case, then something tells me that both of those guys are going to score a lot of goals because most likely the assist that they are going to be coming from is going to be Diego Valeri. And, this offseason there was definitely, actually heading near the end of last season, there was a lot of speculation that Valeri might not be back for the Portland Timbers, and that a lot of Timbers fans was very concerned the fact that Valeri wasn't coming back because, they offer him a TAM contract, and Valeri originally didn't want to have a TAM contract, and he still wanted to be a DP player, and obviously knowing Valeri, even though he is still considered one of the best playmaker in this league, he is definitely started to slow down, and fodder time is started to kind of catch up to him, so the Timbers didn't felt like they're going to give him he should receive a DP contract if that is going to be the case. And thankfully, eventually the Timbers and Valeri kind of work a deal out of it, and that at least now Valeri not only got bought down from that DP contract that he has, at least now he's now earning a very high TAM contract, where I think that probably is the highest TAM contract that any player on that Timber roster are receiving. But they are able to free up one of the DP slot, and one of those DP slot that they free up has a lot to do with getting Jaroslav Neskoda from Poland. Surprise package for this team. Oh, I didn't go through MVP. I mean, I probably shouldn't have to go through MVP because we know who the MVP of this Portland Timbers team is. It has to be Diego Valeri. I mean, it's been Valeri for the past couple of seasons, and it will continue to be Valeri unless if he started to show that fodder time has caught up to him, or the fact that he's no longer with the Portland Timbers. Now, surprise package, I'm going to go with Yimi Chara. Anytime when you have, having one Chara with the Portland Timbers was already kind of exciting, but now having 2 Chara at the Portland Timbers, I mean, I don't know if I'm ready in terms of seeing both Chara brother that plays not only the game with a lot of enjoyment, but the smile that they of course bring to the face of not just fans but also to everybody else. I don't know if I'm actually ready for that. But in all seriousness, I think Yimi Chara could be a surprise package because I have heard good things about him when he was playing down in Colombia, and that he could definitely provide some depth that they need in terms of the winger spot. Now, what do I like about this Portland Timbers team? Well, they added some depth and brought back most of the team. I mean, they didn't really lose a lot of players this offseason besides Brian Fernandez and Zarek Valentine, so they pretty much have kind of the complete roster back this season, and this roster I think should be a roster that should not only make the playoffs but maybe even compete for MLS Cup. And they also added some more depth in terms of some of the areas they desperately need some depth. The wing was one of the area that they probably needed some depth. Striker position was especially the area that they needed some depth, and especially the fact that for a long time they only had Jeremy Abobosi as their main striker, and that it's good that they finally was able to get Jaroslav Neskoda as kind of the second striker that they desperately need. And also they added a couple of more defensive help to in this offseason. So yeah, I think they should have more depth than they ever before, and that Giovanni Severisi is going to have more depth to work than any times he's been with the Timbers. Now, the big question about this Timbers team, and I can't believe I'm asking this, but can they be better at home this season? And the reason why I asked this is because last season it was pretty mind-boggling. The fact that the Timbers, when we were heading into that stretch where they had a ton of home games because they were just finished remodeling and finished that expansion in terms of I believe the east side or the west of the stadium, and that they had like 13 out of 14 games at home to end the season. And when they got to that stretch where they play against LAFC, we thought that, not only they were in a good shape and just below the red line, but we thought that they probably could have finished first in the Western Conference with so many home games that they had. Now, they did lose the first game against LAFC, but it was no big deal because it was LAFC and they're just a mile ahead of everybody. And then after that, they start winning games. But then that's when August and September hit. And my oh my, August and September were a real struggle for this Portland Timbers side. And that there was just times where they actually went winless in those stretch. And that makes me kind of thinking, what's going on with the Portland Timbers? Why are they not winning at home? Why are they losing at home? Which, Providence Park for a long time has known as one of the fortress in MLS, but it was kind of shocking the fact that last season they suffered losses and draw against teams that you would think they should easily beat at home. And thankfully for them, on the final day of the season, they were able to get a crucial home win. And also, they're pretty thankful the fact that on the final day, they did play against the San Jose Earthquakes because, the thing about the San Jose Earthquakes is that this is a team they have never lost against at Providence Park. And as much as I was hoping as a Quakes fan that maybe this is finally the time I can finally see my Quakes break that curse at Providence Park and not winning the game, no. Instead, the Timbers was able to win that final crucial home game and are able to limp into the playoffs. And hopefully this season, it's not going to be the case. Obviously, this season, for the first time in a couple of years, they are going to not have to worry about this crazy road stretch that they have to start the season. I mean, the last two seasons, they had to go through this crazy road stretch because of the remodeling at Providence Park, but this year they're going to have a balanced home and away games, and that they're not going to go on the road for like 5 games and then have a bunch of home games at the end, and that I think they should be much better this season at home. And I guess maybe one of the reasons why they weren't that good at home last season, maybe it has to do with the pressure in terms of they were feeling, and that, I know everybody talk about how home field advantage in MLS is very key, and it is the case. Home field advantage is a big advantage in MLS, and that a lot of home team tends to win more than you see with road team going on the road. But here's the thing. With home teams having such an advantage, that also means that they have a lot of pressure in terms of not only performing in front of their fans, but also getting the job done so that they can, of course, either make up for those road points that they lost on the road, or they want to actually challenge for the top 5 or top 4 spots in the league. So, I think maybe last season with the Timbers having so many home games, even though a lot of people feel like that will definitely help them, and kind of had something similar to what DC United did the previous year at Audi Field, where they had so many home games and they won a lot of them. Well, the thing is, the Timbers, I feel like they kind of crack under that pressure of playing at home so many times and have that expectation to win every single of those home games that, they kind of gone through a rough patch, and, thankfully, that rough patch that they gone through didn't really resort them of missing the playoffs, and they were still able to limp into the playoffs in the end, albeit they did get knocked out in the first round by RSL on the road. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. If you're a Timbers fan, what do you think of the players that they bought in this offseason? And again, I feel like there were a couple of players that is missing on this list. Most of these ins and out lists, I either got it on Wikipedia or I get it on the transfer market, which is a place that I also look at the offseason transaction And I know for a fact that both of those sources, as much as I feel like they're very reliable in terms of seeing what's the off-season transaction that each team has gone through, it's not always accurate. And I have a feeling that there's no way that the Timbers have only added, what, 5 guys into this team. I feel like they had added more addition into the season, and if there is any missing name here, let me know in the comments below, Timbers fan. Players that of course are out of this team: who's the main goal scorer, the playmaker, the MVP, and the surprise package? What do you like about this team, and what is one big question that you want to ask about this team as they begin their season in just a couple of days from now? I mean, it's hard to believe, but MLS season starts next week, and it is really kind of that time of the year where it's final preparation for these teams that is going through preseason before it's actually the real thing, and that they're actually going to be points that is going to be at stake in these regular season match. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.